Okay, so we're back. We're back with a deck. And I'm looking at some pictures. Kind of help decide what color I'm going to paint. These sandbags and such. And I guess the first thing to decide, regardless of color, do I want the sandbags to be a lighter color or a darker color than the tank? That's probably where I would start. And my gut reaction is they should be lighter. My gut reaction is that they should be lighter. So with that said, we're going to start with the skeleton bone, I think. Well, what other reasonable options do I have? We don't want to use the sand one because they're too much. Let's start with skeleton bone. So I was going to do something like this khaki. Let's look at khaki. Obviously, we're going to lighten this up as we go. Don't we have a new khaki? This one's older than this one. These colors look like they changed quite a bit, but I bet they haven't. Some of these old bottles that make the colors look significantly different, even though it's the same color. And I mean, this is old. This is like I got this probably in 2002. I mean, what other options do I have other than that? I mean, we're going to add black to it. Any other creamy grays, maybe? It's going to look awfully pink. Let's start with this khaki. I'm gonna use the old one. Good morning, Ben. Boy, I got some stuff to talk to you about. I've been playing that. What do you call that? Kingdom Come Deliverance. A little bit, off and on. And I don't know that I like it. It's, I'm playing the game. I'm playing the first game for the first time. I don't think the game has any replay value, which is fine. I'll probably be tired of it by whatever. So, playing the main character, go to the other town. He wakes up. He gets taken care of by the farm girl. And then ask him. He's like, they're having this conversation like, hey, how did you make it out of that town? And she goes, well, I don't really want to talk about the story. And he's like, do you want to hear it? It's like, yeah. So the next thing you know, I'm playing her. I'm like, okay, well, that was fun. I guess at some point you could probably not. But I believe she is a download quest, right? She is something that you didn't get in the game originally. So, let's see, what am I going to test this with? Let's put easy there. Let's put these little bags here. These are the bags that go on there. So I want to go ahead and put them on this little thing, and then we can paint around them. And I thought my main character was poor. She's really fucking poor. And I don't really mind a game being hard. I mind a game like you have to do something really restrictive in a very specific way, and they don't give you a lot of clues on how to do it. So you end up having to do it a bunch of times. Well, that's annoying, but at least you can save. No, there's limited saves in the game. You got to drink, some potion that you pick up along the way. That's only how many saves you got. Man, it's been kind of a challenge. Henry's come to see us. Well, I didn't know it was a download. I'm just having a conversation with the farm girl. So I'm playing her right now, which is fine. I was going to play her anyways, but I'm like, can I play the main guy a little bit more? And she's axed a couple of humans with an axe. She's had to. I just tried to save her brother. Couldn't do that. After I did all these things, find this, find the bandages, find the other thing. Nope. Fucker dies anyways. I figured out pretty quickly that when in the mines I needed to use the night vision potion. So at least I didn't spend hours trying to figure out that. And now I'm on my way trying to find out who's alive. Walking around at the top of this hill. And there's not much of these buildings that are basically destroyed. Or they're a husk of them. And I see this ladder that goes down into a mine. And I'm like, well, maybe there's somebody in there. So I go down a ladder. Like at the bottom, no, there's a little platform. So you literally go around and then the ladder goes the other way. I mean, this room that it's in is probably half the size of this room. And I do that like 4 or 5 times. I'm like, where the hell is this going? This is good. This is going straight to hell. And I get to the bottom of going down all these bunch of times. And then there's this hole with no ladder. And I'm like, there's no way this leads to just that. So I just jump in figuring I'm either going to fucking die, or at least I don't have to climb up all those damn ladders again. I mean, it'd be quicker to just reload, just reload from the last point where I was saved at, and sure enough, it was somewhat liberal with the checkpoints, at least at the start of missions. How far in with Henry did you get? Have you met Hans Capone the Noble yet? Nope. So, let's see. So I was at the town where the Cumans attack, and then I ran away on the longest run. I was being chased forever to that other town. Then I was found there. I was mended. Um, then uh, the other thing I don't like about the game is, well, this is just kind of a personal decision. I'm like, oh, Sigismund. I was gonna build a Sigismund army, and then they made him the bad guy. I'm like, oh shit. I was with the fucking bad guys all along. I would have been with the freaking bad guys. Um, um, I survived that. They turned the guy did the big speech to talk. I went to go bury my parents. That's what it is. I went to go bury my parents, and then I get into this ring with this guy that I know I'm not going to be able to fight, and I'm like, it must just be a cutscene, and like they make me fight it, and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to win, and then I get knocked out. I get saved by Teresa and the guys that come from the other town. That I said, don't leave our town. And you're like, I gotta go bury my parents. So you go bury my parents, and and I'm being mended by Teresa, and that's the conversation that I'm having with her. So, and then I turn into her. That's it. That's as far as I've gotten. If I would have known that it would have been a download thing for her, I probably wouldn't have played her right now. But on the other side, at what point are you going to be able to play it? I mean, I'm sure like a year into it, you're not like, hey, tell me about that thing that happened to you a long time ago. Would you end up playing her then? I don't know. But it just kind of happened. I didn't know it was going to be a download content right there. But it's all right. The biggest gripe I have with it is like it's something very specific, and I don't like doing tedious things over and over again. And yeah, it's okay. I mean, I'm sure there's a shitload of game left. You don't play this game to just play this peasant that just gets wounded, and you play through the lives of other people. I'm sure. But the game. So here's the way I play the game. I'm playing the game, and I'm like, all right, I got to go over there. What's that over there? Oh, look, it's a bag. Let me look through the bag. Oh, I found some linens, and I found a new dress, and I found an axe, and I found an arrow. Take all. Go over here, take all. Go over here, take all. And then I go and do something, and I get killed, and then I have to start over at the part before I took all those things. So then I have to go to those places and take it again. That's what's annoying about the game. It's like, okay, you take this, save. You take this, save. So you never have to replay that part again. You can't do that in the game. That's really the only gripe I have about it. Because I'm not just going to be like, okay, go from here to here, and like just ignore that. It's not part of the mission. I'm like, no, I'm nosy, and like, what's in there? I might find something there that I need, or to sell. Well, actually, she's got a lot more money than he does. And then I killed a Cuban, and oh, cool, I got a helmet. Oh, she can't put it on. She can't put a helmet on or anything. I'm like, son of a bitch. So then I'm carrying this armor because I want to sell it, so that I can have some coin. One thing that does feel great is when you get better gear and the combat against random yokel gets easier. Really makes you feel like you've advanced. Yeah, the combat isn't too bad. My initial reaction is that there's a couple times where she was sneaking around, and the Cuman actually got like a strike on her. And I just like took my hands off the controller and say, okay, I'm done. Because I just have like this, I had this feeling like one hit and it's over. And that's not true. And I was like, I actually was able to beat the cumin. You know, I mean, I had a freaking axe out, you know, and he had a bow. So, you know, you got beat by a peasant girl. So I was a little disappointed that I couldn't do both missions in town, though. You could either help Bianca or you could help the other girl that wanted some guy to go on a dance with her. And I didn't choose the other one because it involved stealing shit. And I'm like, I don't want to like start stealing shit, and the next thing you know, I get thrown in jail, and you know, I don't mind killing people, but I don't want to steal shit. Oh, be careful wearing cumin armor, not around cumins. And then, of course, I wanted to look like, what's the DBA army list for the Cubans? Aren't they like all white horse? I don't remember. They're like Mongoloid Hungarians, steppe people. All right, now, oh yeah, we're gonna have to tinker a lot with that. It looks too close to the color of the tank, and we didn't even use the same colors. The menus are a little awkward to work through, but you know, the more you do it, the more you get used to it. I can't hit shit with a bow. I can't hit shit, but there's no aim point. She's like, I think it's over there. Nope, you missed him again. Oh, you missed him again. Yep, you missed him again. Good thing I bought like freaking 30 arrows. And there's some conversations, like there's a conversation I was having with the character's dad, with the peasant girl's dad, where he's like, he's sitting at the table and I'm talking to him, and he's not even facing me, and it's just like an animation mess up, like the perspective, like the camera's in the wrong place. I had a conversation with somebody one time and I never saw them. You know, it's like just one of those glitches, camera glitches. It's worth training a bit. Once you level up archery, you get less spread. I don't know. Right now, I'm just trying to get by. But really, the saving thing was a little disappointing. You can't save that often. And the only reason I want to save that often, like I said, is because I'm going to point A to point B, and along the way, I end up picking 7 different things from 7 different sites. I don't want to do that again. I don't want to go and loot those bodies again. That's tedious. And if you die, it ends up bringing you back to a point before you lose to those bodies. And you know, I play those games to find shit. I mean, really, that's what I play those games for. Like, I wonder what's in this house. Oh shit, there's a mouse trap, you know, or whatever. Cheese. Although I don't think she's eaten. She has a really low metabolism. I had to feed Henry all the fucking time. She's just fine, just, you know, not eating. But I'm glad I didn't get the new one. I'm not really liking how this is turning out. Let's change tack. It's too dark. Let's change tack on this. There's too much contrast on it. So let's just lighten up the shadows. That's why I like to do this afterwards. Like, if I don't like how this looks, I just won't put it on. Nothing says, hey, you got to put sandbags on your tank. Nope. I'd added a little extra armor and shit. But it's something to fool around for about an hour. Any more than that, I'm like, okay, well, let's go do something productive. All right, let's start there. Now we're going to add white. You add more white than that, not going to get anywhere. Now, the only bad thing about adding these things is I don't have this kind of stuff for my British tanks. Although, if I like how this looks, I may end up getting some of those aftermarket things and cast copies of them. Cast copies of them and make variances up to them. Nice thing is you can add this stuff after the fact. It's not like, oh, it's done and oh shit, I don't have these things. Well, just finish the tank. You could add them afterwards. Okay, that's better. Let's add a little bit more white. There we go. But yeah, I didn't get very far. I'm glad to be out of that stupid mine, though. Luckily, I figured out it's extremely linear. The mine, it's not like, oh, there's lots of different ways. Like, you pretty much only go one way, and you got to go by a couple guys, and well, I had gotten it. I got it about a week ago in the download version, the version 2 of Face of Battle, and I'm not really impressed at this point. I'm gonna give it a fair shot, and we're gonna try to play it the way it's intended. But it seems like I'm getting the feeling that he fixed a lot of things that I didn't think was necessarily anything wrong with. But we'll see. Maybe to have more clarity with morale checks, and if you're already at this morale and you take another morale, what happens? That kind of stuff that just added some doubt when I was playing. Not that I necessarily had a problem with how it was handled. All right, now let me see if I can pull this off and just see color-wise how we're doing. If I'm happy with this type of a color. And I'm fine if some of it gets chipped off, because yeah, I like that color. That color. I definitely wanted it lighter than the tank. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Now the question is, was it like this, or is it the other way? I don't remember. It was the other way. It was like that. Okay, was this one, did we glue this one on, or we didn't, or we just set it there? We just set it there. Good boy, because that would have been more restrictive. Let's do the same thing with this one. Yeah, this Stickum stuff is great. I saw a review, still have to try the modern version before I consider delving into the World War II version. Oh, that's right, you did get it. I actually had a dream last night, just before I woke up. Actually, this morning. It was just before I woke up. It was the last... Actually, I woke up in the middle of it, which is kind of a disappointing, but it wasn't like it was a sexy dream or anything. I was in a dream, and I was like in a Kmart, or I was in some store that didn't have models, and they had models. And they had like 1/72nd scale stuff. So I'm looking through it, and it's all things I recognize, but they had all been opened, and people had moved things, so there was like half-built stuff, like the kids or whatever had gotten into them. You got a case of the kids. The kids got into stuff. And they were all mishmash. And I had just gotten the manager to say, hey, can I sit here and sort all these things out, like sort all the things and put them back together, and maybe I'll buy one of them. And he was just about to tell me yes, and I woke up. I'm like, damn it, that would have been fun to do. Be like a German half-track model, and inside there was like an elephant or something like that, from Alexander's Elephant or some shit. It was like everything was in a wrong thing. Like, you're never going to sell these unless I put these together for you. I don't know what the hell that means. But one of the things I was looking at was some Vietnam figures. I don't know why I was thinking about that, but the Model Club's next theme next month is Vietnam. I don't already have something from Vietnam to paint, so I'm not going to go out and buy something. I actually considered getting the Airfix or MPC Centurion tank and make it an Australian one, but it's not the right mark that the Australians used. Oh, I'm not going to go convert a freaking Centurion tank. I didn't pick the Vietnam theme, so I just won't participate in it. It's not like everybody always participates in every one of them. They bring other models and talk about different shit. But I have nothing for Vietnam, and I have no regrets about not having anything for Vietnam. It's something actually doesn't interest me at all. Let's get some more of this khaki here. Here's a question. Uh-oh. Don't ask me if this makes you look fat. This makes me look fat. If some deviants got a hold of your model stash and destroyed them all, how many years in prison would you be facing? Of all the stuff they would get into this stuff, I don't know. Taking photos and doing all these videos and everything and putting them online goes a long way towards avoiding that kind of a reaction. Because, if you don't have any of that, you could be like, hey, remember the time when I pics or it didn't happen? You'd be like, fuck, people keep asking me, hey, when are you going to play? When are you going to play a game or whatever? Well, I tell them, I said, well, we've played several. Did you not get an invite? Maybe you're an asshole. The journey is the part for me that's important at this point, because I really am using this for therapy. I'm not sounding like I'm a crazy person, but work is extremely frustrating. Excruciatingly, unsatisfyingly frustrating. And I feel like this sometimes is the only thing that gets me by from day to day. So I'm using it for that. And no matter what difficult thing I've had to do here, it is like a piece of cake compared to this BS I got to deal on a daily basis. So, it gives me a sense of accomplishing something without it being, frustrating. I don't know. I've never really thought about that. The only mishaps that I have had, there was a local game convention here in this town that was held twice, maybe 3 times. And if I had to tell you about when it happened, it probably was around 2004. And there was a painting contest. And I already had my World War II stuff. I was already working on that stuff, so I could try to estimate about when it was. It might have been 2003. Might have been 2005, one of those. And I entered them in the painting contest because at that time we were at single income. I wanted some hobby money, right? I don't need awards. I'm like, I wouldn't mind having $20 or $30 gift certificate to buy something with that I can't really justify getting otherwise. So that was kind of my incentive towards doing. I don't give a shit about getting awards. I mean, many awards I have for DBA, not a single one of them's up. I'm throwing them away, but they're also not up. Um, these guys in the model meeting go to these model clubs. I'm like, oh, I got second place. I got bronze. I got other. What are you gonna do with that shit? What are you gonna do with that crap? But anyhow, so I entered a squad of my Germans in this painting contest. I forget what the results were. I went to go pick up my figures, and one of my figures is missing, and I've never recovered it. And I know which figure it is. It was a German guy kneeling with a rifle grenade. I don't remember what his name was. Obviously, they had names. I don't remember what his name is. I had two German rifle grenade guys. One has like the early grenade. The other one had the later one. And it was the later one figure. That's the only mishap that I've had with that. That's walked away. But that's a big reason why I don't want to play. I don't want to run this at a convention for multiple reasons. The biggest reason is I don't have to mind my stuff, and I don't have to like spend an hour setting it up to run it for a couple hours to tear it down. Like that's just too much. It's too much work for me. Like somebody that's like retired and doesn't have anything on their plate and doesn't do shit for a living can try that. I got too much stuff going on. But I'm not really interested in other people's opinions of how good my shit looks. I mean, if you guys like it, that's cool. I'm not saying your opinion's not important, but that's not why I do it. I do it for me. And so I like it, and I want to do more stuff. But getting all these awards in first place, and so, you know, the award doesn't mean anything. There's things that win things that I don't like more than my own stuff. So I mean, what's the purpose? No, I did like going to the model show a lot, but mainly they had some stuff in there that was priced to move, and some of it moved so fast. I actually missed out on a couple things. It's actually fine that I missed out on it, but I would have bought another Panzer One and one of those Command Panzer ones. I don't need more shit. I've got. How we doing shade wise? Let's add a little bit more white. Yeah, that's looking really good. I like the color of that. But that's the only mishap that I've had that I can think of on the fly. I've never had anybody break into my house. You can't do that here in the United States. You don't. We'll kill you. You get yourself killed here. Especially where I live now. I mean, I live on a road where I would say a third of the people are probably retired, which means they're busybodies and don't have anything to do. Um, so there's people always around. Um, and I don't live in a high crime area. I didn't live in a high crime area before. I was concerned about leaving my stuff out of the convention at the other convention when I brought my DBA stuff, but I made a habit of always putting it away in my car in between sessions, even though it was a pain in the ass to have to haul over there. But I didn't want to have to start over and painting a bunch of armies. The cost of the actual lead or the miniature or the model is irrelevant. It's the time that you put into it that's like gone. Like, okay, well, I got to start that over again. So I don't know if that answers a question. I don't know. After I'm done with it, I'm like, okay, it's time to move on to the next thing. I had a I had a I'd call it an incident. I had a situation on the way to work yesterday that pissed me off to no end. And speaking of getting thrown in jail, this is the kind of shit that would get me thrown in jail. Not going after somebody that would take my figures that isn't going to happen. I'm driving on the way to work, and I don't know how it is in the UK, but here in the United States, nobody's paying fucking attention. They have their head up their either their ass or their phone, or their ass while they're playing with their phone while they're driving. Constantly, nobody's paying attention. This little town that I go through to get to work has a speed limit, and there's like fucking cops there all the time. Speed limit of 45. So you get these guys that want to go 60 through town, pushing everybody. And then when you get in the 65-mile-an-hour zone, they want to go 62. And it's the irony that drives me crazy. If I ever go to jail, it's because I'm going to try to write the irony in the world. And this truck goes through, this tractor trailer is hauling these wood chips, littering shit everywhere. And like in the left-hand lane, he's going like 52 or something like that at the 65, holding everybody up. And I don't mind that I was going slow. I mind that he's littering shit all over the place. And, little wood chips and stuff. I'm like, that's just dishonorable to be just throwing that shit all over somebody's car. It wasn't, it was just like it could damage it. It was like, and one of the guys that I work with, I saw that he was behind him. He was on the way to work as well. And he's like right behind him, like littering all this stuff. And I'm like, you do see that guy? Why didn't you get up from behind him? I said, oh, he was littering stuff? I said, oh, I see. You have your head up your ass too. And nobody's paying attention, man. No wonder there's so many freaking accidents. Like, I've got Audible and stuff, and I rarely listen to it anymore. I've got to be, like, on point, paying attention, babysitting everybody. Because people are either following too close or just being stupid. And I'm not one of those people that wants to go 80 into 60. I'm fine going the speed limit. But, dude, get up the fucking speed, You can't control how fast you can go because you don't make the laws, okay? But you can control how fast you get there. I've seen these people like on the way to work when I lived in town or worked in the country. They get behind the school bus. I'd get stopped by a school bus one time, right, for stopping, and then I'm flooring it, not because what did I do wrong to have to stop at every school bus stop? You'd end up stopping like 6 or 7 times. Like, get around them. And some people are just like, I'm just enjoying my marijuana high, Just thinking, if I knew a welder, I'd like to rig something up behind like where my gas tank is, where I could pull a handle and this little box of just like simplex nails could just drop. Like, you get in front of somebody and just drop this. But unfortunately, like, the wrong person would get it too, but like blow somebody's freaking tires out. Like, somebody's just like a nuisance to society. How do we do on the color here? Let's see. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Pretty happy with that. Is that all the bags? So we got a little bag lady right here. Uh-oh. So different people have different things that make them go potentially crazy. That would be mine. Irony drives me bananas. Irony and coincidences drive me bananas. Nobody will call you at work. You go to the bathroom to pee for 45 seconds. That's when somebody calls. No problem. He left a message. Check the message. Okay, call the guy back. He's not there again. Leave a message. Then you go and you take a phone call. That's when that guy calls back. It happens 4 and 5 times over again. I've just gotten to the point, if that happens to me, like if I call somebody, leave a message, hey, call me back, and they call me and I'm not available, and I try to call them back, I won't leave other messages. I'll keep trying them, but there's no reason to be tortured by, having to leave other messages. I'll keep trying you. That kind of shit happens all the time. So I really prefer email because you don't have any missed phone calls with email. Unless it's, a conversation you need to have, because otherwise you have one of those emails that generates 6 other emails, and not a fan of those either. But some people don't care. I had a guy that I used to work with. This guy must have been sued multiple times before in his life. But he'd print every single email he'd get a job he'd have different projects he was working on. And every time he got an email related to a project, he would go and he'd print out that email. Print out the whole email. Okay? So remember, the first email about a conversation is 1 page long. And then it goes to 2, 3, 7, 8, 12, 14. He'd print everything out and then put it in the job folder. Like, why don't you just leave it on the computer in the email thing with a subject line that makes sense? So when you need to search about what the latest happenings of that is, you just type it in the subject line. It's right there for you. And then you print it if you need to. But it's right there. You just spend half a day trying to find out where the hell it's at. No, he was old school. Well, he's not there anymore. Anything that's like a waste of time or busy work, pretty much in anything I do, I'm like 100% against it. Like I got enough busy work here. Okay, I don't need it in real life. But different things piss you off. Like, I know this is going to sound strange, but, it hasn't happened to me yet, so I haven't really, experienced, like a rage of somebody, like, stealing my stuff, right? It hasn't happened to me, so I don't really know. But what has happened to me and drives me into a rage is when I get home from work, especially if people are visiting me that aren't working, retirees, whatever, and my entire driveways is chock full of cars and I can't park in my own driveway. That drives me like I'm ready to commit a hate crime. And all of that happens because when I used to live alone in the condo, I had these pot smoking guys, these pot smoking students. I think that's all they did. That lived next door. And there was 2 spots that were marked for your unit with my number on them, and they had also 2 spots or whatever, and they'd park wherever, invite all their friends over, and take all my spots. Like, they didn't even leave me one. Like, I lived alone. Like, just leave me one spot. Nope, they took them all, and they don't even work. And then you go over there now. Oh, sorry, man. They're on the zombie. They're acting like a zombie. Eventually they moved out, but not after I called the freaking tow truck on them. Fuck you. That's just disrespectful. I would never do shit like that to other people. You don't do stuff like that. What's your excuse? Did you have a dad that abused you? I mean, that's dishonorable to act that way. So ever since then, I'm like, don't take my fucking parking spot. So that pissed me off more than taking my miniatures. Because Come over here and steal my miniatures, but don't park at my spot. It's funny because anytime we've had somebody over for dinner and we go to the table, the first thing they ask is, where's your spot? I'm like, I don't have a spot on the table where I sit. I have a place in the parking I have a place in the driveway where I park. Don't fucking park there. But I don't care what part of the table I sit. I don't. I really don't care. It's a round table. I like all the spots the same. Split the difference and take your tank base. Yeah, you see how many bases I'm painting. I'm not saying I'm giving up on it. It's definitely not a priority. And the thing I hate about basing is, man, waiting for that goop to dry. And I'm not going to travel anywhere with these guys. I may bring them to the model meeting. That's it. I'm never going to pack these guys up and go to somebody's house to put on a game. It's never going to happen. The next time these guys will move in that purpose, it'll be because I'm moving from this house. But these aren't going to somebody else's house to play. They'll get played here or they won't get played. We've done that way too much. Now, I'll still magnetize the figures because the figures get to be top heavy and they fall over in your tray, but these guys aren't top heavy at all. The likeliness of somebody coming in and stealing stuff and taking my things is not likely. Not likely to happen to begin with. We got alarms, etc. And nobody cares about this stuff. I knew a couple of guys that went to Historicon several years ago. It was 2009. They were from Australia, Greg and Mark, and they decided to do some travel in the United States after Historicon. And one of them says, because I'm going on what he says. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I didn't see it happen. How do you know this? Did you take him? He left his figures one place and they disappeared, like they walked away from him. And this is in New York, so it didn't happen at a game convention. You know that they're in a dumpster somewhere. They're in a landfill. Somebody didn't just keep those. Like, oh, these are cool. Be like, the fuck are these stupid figures? You know damn well that's what happened. Because, unless you're one of the Nerdburger character classes, you don't even know what the hell these things are for. Like, why would a grown man have these figures? Or whatever. He told me about this, and I'm like, that's terrible, but, New York isn't America. Like, that doesn't, New York is a fucking prison. They're broke. They're all there. There's still honor in New York. By the way, I'm painting up the Museum Miniatures ECW lads. Currently done on the quick... I gotta put my glasses on. done on the quick, but I'm enjoying it so far. Not sure on what basis to use though. Probably DPX standard for flexibility. Little stuck on flags though. I'm aiming at 2 ensigns per unit for the added color. How many are in each unit? Like 16 or something like that? I think 2 is the right color, the right amount. I'm not super familiar with I'm not familiar at all with English Civil War. Let's get right down to it. But stuff of that period that would sometimes have like a national color, and then they would have like the captain's color or the colonel's color or something like that. So I definitely could see having 2, right next to each other or close to each other. So then the question comes, do you favor the parliamentarians or the king? Or you just don't care? Do you like frilly collars, or do you is your hair past your shoulders, or like I was saying a couple weeks ago, I kind of have a bad taste in my mouth from the nope, not having played it, but just on the outside. And like I said, my view is skewed because I associate. Hold on a second. Let's see. This goes something like this. I'm going to have this on one of them, but not the other. So it goes like this. I associate the Parliament with the Puritans. I know I shouldn't, but I do, and I'm not a fan of Puritans. Sorry. They cut into the wee little bit of drinking that I do. I don't know, maybe Puritans in England still drink, but the ones here didn't. The ones here are no fun at parties. That's not looking bad. Now, the color of this damn bag that goes on here. I saved this colorized picture of this Panzer III. And it makes it look, well, here's somebody's model impression. And it looks like it'd be a light color like the sandbags. I don't know that I like that. This colorized picture, on the other hand, shows it like black or blackish. I think that looks a bit better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a color that the tracks are in and lighten that up. I think that's where I'm going to start. What color is? Oh, this is German grade. German grade. Bloody hell, no. We'll need to wait for that to dry a little bit because it's a bit wet. And these two don't have the rusty drippings on them. So that's what we'll do next after we do that. Because we've got boxes and shit to add on this one. How secure is this? It's secure enough. Okay. Yeah, eventually there will be a 131, but a 131 will be a J. You get a pair of J's. No preferences for one side or the other. I got some books on ECW flags, though I am in the middle position of wanting to use all of them. Certainly the cavalry coronets. Yeah, I'll play anybody. I don't care. But don't keep me from having a beer, you Puritan. And they also have, I didn't like this. See, what is it? Which one is it? The Panzer II, not the G, the H. The H one. Why all the H? Not that one, not that one. I thought there was. I said there was one that was on the roof. Might have been this one. Yeah, I just turned it into being up here on the roof. Like, I don't like the way that looks on the roof. Not really a fan. So I turned it, I guess I turned that one into this one. Yep. Decided not to put it on the roof. Yeah, because it's got like a gap where the breather is. It slows down you turn in the turret, man. You get your ass beat that way. But I'll probably at some point get more of these. So I could do one on the roof at that point, but let's mix a little bit of this khaki with it. Do you think most people have a preference in the English Civil War? I think most people probably have a preference for cavalry, tanks, that sort of things that are glorious. So I wouldn't be surprised if most people would prefer to play the Royalists. On that reason only. I could be wrong, but like in the desert, I don't have a preference. In North Africa, I think the British tanks are cooler because they've got, more camouflage options that are legitimate. But I bet the Afrika Korps are more popular. Now, that's what I like to do. Put on my glasses and take a look at what I've done. Now, I guess you'd probably just paint those boxes and be done with them, and then everything's painted. Who's sending me a bunch of stuff? The Plastic Soldier Company just posted something. What did they post? 10 millimeter, 15 millimeter range. Not interested. I'll have to watch a couple of those things later that she sent me. All right, let's go for Panzer III. Afrika Korps. Yeah, they definitely took some of the details off of that particular picture. It's got that track on the front that's being bulged by those extra two road wheels. Yeah, it's got that crooked coconut in a tiny place. I can't paint a swastika that small, so that wouldn't work. Actually, I don't care that it's black and white. I need to be able to see like what some of the colors of these things are. Like, okay, that's like those ammo boxes. They seem to be gray. Okay, and the boxes are probably the ammo boxes are probably light colored and bleached, sun bleached. Yeah, they're almost like a green, like a field gray for the ammo thing. Okay, that's fair. And the cans are like gray, which is great because I just left them black and just dry brushed them, so they're done. Okay, so this ammo box, I could do some kind of a green type thing. And I guess some of the jerry cans can be like yellow color, but I don't really like the way that looks. This wood is really, really light colored. Really, really light colored. Where's that stone, that skeleton bone? Skeletonian bonian. There we go. I'm gonna use this as maybe the core color on those boxes. See, I don't like the look at this Afrika Korps tank. the yellow that it's picked. I just don't like the way it looks. It looks like mustard. It's well done with all the rust and stuff, but I don't like the color they chose, but that's the beauty of it. I don't have to pick that color. Oh, and this like little duffel bag. Is there any duffely things there? Not there. Yeah, that just seems like the wrong color. That's like a dunkel. That's like a Kursk Dunkelgelb yellow color to me. As opposed to these that look sweet as shit. But it's a gray base vehicle. So this is like fifth light division. Those look wonderful. All right, let's start with this. Paint the boxes on here. Let's get rid of the turret. Now, this has a clamp around the outside of this box. And if I didn't know any better, I'd say that that should be metal colored. This isn't a clamp per se. That definitely looks like it should be a clamp around it in a metal color. But it's going to add some color to it. So that's how we're going to roll with that. All right, let's see if I'm going to be happy with the skeleton bone. So I am curious to see what these look like sealed, because that always changes the appearance, usually in a good way. So I'm going to avoid those clamps. can't put this kind of detail into something and then go and play something like What a Tanker. You know, something generic like that. Well, I mean, I guess you could. I couldn't. You know, part of me wants to play this tank exactly how it is. So, like, you can't turn its turret to the back because the shit's in the way. Actually, it might still be able to fire over it. Never mind. But if you had, like, a ton of stuff on there, like, this tank can't fire 180 degrees to the back. Why? Because there's stuff on the back. I bet nobody's played that way before. Oh, sorry, your tank model's got too much accoutrement on there. You're restricted in your turret traverse. What? Yep. I don't know that I would gain any kind of an advantage painting this knot on the tank in this situation. And like I said, if I ended up getting more tanks, I'll probably already paint these things on it. I mean, I'd probably already glue these things on here. I just had never done this kind of like extra stuff on here. So I wasn't sure if I wanted to go down that road. Oh, my stomach's having a concert. Oh yeah, that's turning out well. Doesn't Warlord make English Civil War in their funny little scale, or maybe they just do Napoleonics and ACW? What is it, 12 and a half millimeters or whatever? 13 and, well, it can't be, you can't use millimeters and not use decimal. 13 and 3/8 millimeters. Ah, stop it. The best thing about the metric system is that it's decimal. Don't start fractionalizing the metric system. America adopts the metric system, but then they divided everything by 12. Motherfucker, you. I don't hate inches, I hate partitions of an inch. They knew Napoleonics, ECW, ACW, and now the Punic Wars in epic scale. Well, the problem with that is, and I think that scale is probably pretty decent. Even 10 mil would be okay. Except for a variety of figures. Ah, who cares? They all look the same. No, they don't. Well, if you have that attitude, yeah, you're going to paint them the same, but not me. I never did 6 millimeter Renaissance because I didn't think there was a variety enough of the figures. And getting the goop in between the feet on those would be a pain in the ass. Isn't Flames of War, the Flames of War people, the Warlord games, both of the people that started those companies, or the core people that work for those companies, aren't they like ex Games Workshop folks? Because I think they all have that business model of we're going to make the miniatures and the rules, which I'm not a fan of. I like rules to be miniature agnostic. You put all your eggs in one basket and like, we're not going to make these figures anymore. What do I do? Maybe you like 10 millimeter, 12 millimeter epic or whatever, Punic Wars, and you want to get some Alexander. They don't make Alexander. You just have to like fudge it. I don't know. I don't like putting all my eggs in one basket like that. They probably still don't handle the Roman fighting formations correctly in that rule set either. If I was gonna make an ancients rule set, that would be like rule number one. Like, okay, we got to make the Romans be able to. There's got to be some kind of representation of how they fought in the look of the figures. With the Stati, Principe, and Terrarii. Almost everyone from a major vendor company is ex Games Workshop at this point, even if it was just being a store manager. So who the hell's left at Games Workshop? New blood. You know, the one product that Games Workshop made that I actually liked and have bought some of course I'm never going to play the game, is the historical one. I think those books are really, really pretty. They're really well put together. I don't know if the rules are worth a damn. Warhammer Ancients. I think Warhammer Ancients books are beautiful. I have 4 or 5 of them. They're gorgeous. Oh yeah, these boxes look sexy. Yeah, that strap that's around them, that shouldn't be wooden. It just doesn't look right. I mean, if it looked like it was different pieces of metal, but I mean different pieces of wood, but it looks like banding. New blood that we never know about because they no longer put names on their work. Ooh. Ooh, evil. You're just one of the minions. Even the minions have names. Those guys don't even have names. I'll be right back. Let me go get a hit of Coke. Companies that are run by, what do you call it? Stockholders. Fuck that. Not a fan. I don't know how Britain is, but in Spain, it seemed like there was more small businesses than there were in the United States. And as an American, that floors me. I would have thought there's no country more small business friendly than the United States. But see, I'm not aware of the fuckery that's going on. Because yeah, in the last 20 years, corporations gobble everything up here. And then they basically make it so there's less competition. Which is basically a screwing for the consumer. All right. That's looking pretty good. Now, I am not a fan of jerry cans repurposed for water. So you're probably never going to see me paint a jerry can with a white cross on it. It just looks stupid. Like, look, we need the fuel. Like, you know, fill your damn canteens. There's your water. These cans are to fuel the Advance. All right. I know not what color that's going to end up being. That little, like, tarpy thing. Let's grab, let's see where the Fieldgrau is. Or the German, there it is, boom. That's the color that the ammo things are. That's the color that the MG ammo thing is in. That I'm going to use. So yeah, there's not a lot of small businesses here in the United States anymore. Maybe in other towns, and I don't know what the reason is behind that. I don't know whether it's this country's just turned into one of those where they give corporations all these breaks, so everybody creates a corporation, so they get all these ways of legally cheating the system, and then we're done with competition. Maybe that's what it is. Nope, this is not black. Black is over here. We've been using the craft black for a while now and been pretty happy with it. I don't know if that's the same case in Britain, but I am generally not a fan of people getting involved in stuff they're not interested in just for the sake of making money. So, for instance, I'm not saying it should be illegal. I'm just generally I don't understand that. I don't understand people that collect baseball cards that don't give a fuck about baseball. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. When something is interesting and people aren't interested in it, they're just in it for the money. I'm just like that's weird. Like you collect guns but you don't want to fire any. Oh, it's just an investment or whatever it is that you're interested in, or whatever it is that you're. It just doesn't. I would never do something like that. It's just very odd. The baseball card's always the one that. There's some store that used to be. I used to pass by it every time I went to Mitch's when I lived at the old house. When I had to go grab a soda or something like that. And it was a store that is only cards. And I don't know that they have any magic there. How the hell do you run a business? How do you survive in a business that all they do is handling like tradable cards? Like that's a pretty limited, especially when you live in when it's in a suburbia town. This isn't New York City. This is like like they don't even have like a major sports team here. Who the hell's collecting cards? Be a front for something else. was hoping I'd get to the Afrika Commander this morning, but that ain't gonna happen. It's funny when you start adding these things on here that are not the accoutrement, it starts turning the color of the tank more yellow. Like, I didn't think these tanks were very yellow to begin with. You start adding these things that have no yellow in them, and you put them next to the tank, you're like, man, the tank looks really yellow. Or it looks yellower. I mean, like, significant. So we'll plug along playing Kingdom Come Deliverance or whatever. I have a feeling that one guy from the first castle, whatever his name is, Saradzic, that guy's rubbing me the wrong way. He looks like a sinister fucker. Maybe it's just a mustache. I don't know. I also think it's kind of lame that they gave everybody an English accent. I mean, if they gave everybody an American accent, I'd have a problem with that too. It's not that it's an English accent. It's like, dude, at least make it sound, Germanic. One of the guys does have a Germanic accent, but it's like, man, like you could do better than that. Like, give him a fake accent or something. I don't know. Just it's distracting. Like, what part of England we're in? Oh yeah, that's right, Czechia. And I don't know if those towns are actually based in reality. I hadn't gone to the map yet. Talmberg. Yeah, this looks god awful. It looks the mustard explosion. Well done. I just don't like the color choice. Well, there's a Talmberg. Yeah, it's in the middle of the Czech Republic, which is what I like to call it. I don't like calling it the Czechia. Seems weird. Oh, there's a castle over here. Nice. Anyways, that's something fun to putz around on the side, but I just don't have it in me anymore. Like, play something like that for like 4 or 5 hours. You're like, it's kind of good that it's not like super fulfilling, because the next thing you know, you're not painting this stuff. let's go ahead and add. Yeah, this black and white work really, really well. I don't know if they have this in the UK. I'm sure you guys have good equivalents of this. But not all cheapo acrylic paints are all created the same. This folk art has a lot more pigment in it. Man, my stomach sounds like I'm about to shit my pants. But that's not the case. Sorry to disappoint you. And I won't be weathering these boxes because I actually don't like the way that looks. I don't like the weather tools and stuff because it just makes it like just blend too much. What did I do with that extra white? Maybe there wasn't any extra. I used it all up. Now, at least people stop asking, hey, why aren't you playing DVA anymore? When are you going to put another video out? And nobody asks, when's Mitch going to do one? I mean, he supposedly still plays it. Make a fucking video. It's not like I'm a genius or something. Certainly not the video for videoing things. My talent's here, not anywhere else. I don't want to spend days on end trying to edit a video. That's a waste of my time. It's not like he doesn't have a phone or anything. It's like they're all filmed on phones. It's not like a camera, specialized camera equipment or anything. But I haven't been gaming anything face to face at all. Otherwise, I would have made videos of it. Okay, I think we're going to leave the ammo cans like that. Now we're going to go back to the boxes and bring them up. Now we're going to need a little bit of black. But Honestly, I don't know what the hell he's playing. He must be playing. I'm sure he's playing something every week. He doesn't announce it, so I don't fucking know. I know that they were running some games at the show in Jacksonville that I had no intention of going to. And I'm just not gonna. I'm not interested in running games. Like I looked at the pictures of the people that are playing games that are there, and I recognize several people that I never want to play a game with. And they're not any of the local players. They're just people that I encounter at the convention. And the one guy that manhandles all the fucking troops had that incident with a manhandling. I'm not playing a fucking game with him. I don't want to see him trashing somebody else's troops. I'm gonna say something to that motherfucker. And not care. Oh, he's not gonna like you. There's lots of people that don't like me. What's having a few more? You know, some of these folks, nobody's ever stood up to them. Like, it's time to light them up a new one. What do you go to conventions for? Pick fights with nerd burglars. Not any reason. Nobody's ever stood up to them before. F them. Time to light them up a new one. I can handle it. It's not like I'm walking into a biker bar. Hey, Fatso! What? What'd you say? Snap the pool cue. No, the last game I played at a convention was this Car Wars type game. And we had a blast. But everybody had a good attitude. Like, you know, not like, well, what'd you shoot at me? Like, that's what the freaking game is, man. You have to shoot at other people. I'm sorry. It's not personal. It's just part of the game. If you can't deal with that kind of stuff, you probably don't need to be playing games. Don't take it so personal and, like, freaking have a good time. Oh, it was like a Car Wars type game or whatever, or a death race. I think that actually might have been what the name of the game is. It's a death race. You had to do like half of a lap before your weapons got activated. Weapons wouldn't your weapons wouldn't get activated unless you ran over a certain spot. But you had to do the correct maneuver, and there's some random stuff involved, like you could be going too fast and you can't make the turn, so you had to hit these spots on the track to activate your weapons. And I tried to activate them, and I think I missed the first one. And then I activated the second one, but I was in the lead. I was just basically there to drive. So I was playing like this Car Wars game, and I was just driving fast. Like, I'm going to win like racing, like it's a racing game. Let's friggin' drive. And my weapons did activate, so I was able to drop like smoke and shit behind me. So I could go over like a narrow point where the the track would go over like a bridge. And I dropped like a smoke there. That's like the most, I didn't have any rear facing guns or anything. But I was just basically there to drive. And everybody else was like shooting at each other. I think I was so far ahead of them they couldn't hit me, but I'm there to drive. You can't crash fast enough to win. It was like a racetrack. It was only like 3 cars wide, maybe 4 cars wide. Catch me if you can, motherfucker. These boxes take way too long to paint, but it's not like I have that many to paint. If they wouldn't make it look like they were made out of pieces of wood, I wouldn't have to paint them like they're made out of pieces of wood. Oop. We got loose there a little bit. So I should look up why it is that when I go vertical on my phone, I get like 1 million different people. I'm exaggerating, but hundreds of people that tune into the channel. I mean, they don't want to have anything to do with, they don't have this hobby. It's obvious. What are you doing there? Is that a tank? Okay, you're obviously new. You're not a regular. Is that a tank? But it makes the difference. Like I'll do a morning session and I'll have 400, I'll normally have about, maybe after the session's over with, somewhere around 25, 30 views. And like you get on one of these and you'll have like 450 views. I'm like, what the hell happened? It must be suggesting it to all kinds of people that are on their phones that don't have anything to do with the hobby. Which, is fine, but that's not really what this is geared towards. I'm fine interacting with anybody who has like an interest in this hobby, but sometimes people come by that just want to cause trouble. Not really that often. I thought it would actually happen more often than it does. Not really that often. But I do know people that every single thing they post on Facebook, the only people that go on their page are people that want to argue with them. And it's like, nobody's going to change anybody's mind. Like, why is that the case? Freaking naysayers. Like, I actually blocked somebody for 30 days, not because of the stuff that they said, but they would always like stir up all this controversy, and it'd be on my feed, and you're actually, limited on how many people you actually see stuff from. I thought it was just bullshit, but it's true. Because there's this one lady that, we've gone on vacations with. Boy, that sounds inappropriate. She had a husband. It still doesn't sound any better. But anyhow, there's one lady that we know. And I hadn't seen her post anything in years, like 5 or 6 years. And she's been posting every day. I'm like, why don't I see her things? It's not like I dislike her. It's not like we had, you're limited by how many things, if you interact with people or you give people likes, that's the stuff you're going to see. So, I'm not sure how it works, but it's got something to do with that. So yeah, and that's happened with several people. There's people that, usually people that have the wargaming hobby, I see their stuff that they have. But if it's not a wargaming hobby, this person posts like 3 times a day. I don't see any of their things. How come? It's the algorithm, dude. Yeah, you shouldn't use words you don't know how to spell. Far out, man. I'm ready to silence this person again for 30 days. There's somebody in particular that I'm thinking. I was like, man, all they do is post controversial things that they don't bother me. But man, they got a couple of their naysayer friends that they can't wait to jump on them. Well, this isn't the case. That isn't like, man, who wants to live in a land of arguments like that? And when I was growing up, one of my first wargaming experiences, there were these 2 guys that would always play war games and would always argue with each other constantly, no matter what. It's like, dude, you guys need to be on the same side. Like, mix it up a little bit. Where was that spot that I was going to? Ah, here it is. I'm going to have to add some white to this to make it pop a little bit more. Get it away from the color range of the hull of the tank. There we go. But I guess there's some people that just have a need to need to be heard, and like, like I mentioned before, there's one guy on the Facebook on the Fanaticus page. That motherfucker can't ever say anything nice about the rules. Like, if you dislike DBA so much and every little aspect of, we need to change this, we need to change the other thing. And I don't think this guy's ever played very many games. He's just like, man, I got to put my own spin on the rules. Like, all this guy does is find problems, and he doesn't use his real name. And I ignored every single thing that guy's like, oh, that's what this guy's about? Like, I'm just going to ignore you. Like, if you dislike this game so much, why are you here? We need to have special rules for this. We have it, like, you need to play like the rule, like, how about play the game for a couple of years, like the way it's designed, then you can make your decisions. Oh, we got to change this, and we got to change the other thing. When said you can play it however you want when when you're at home, but if it's a tournament game, you need to play it the tournament way, or you're going to be sending people off in wrong directions. And this guy's a typer. Loves to type really long-winded things. I'm like, whatever, man. Go out and get a job. You obviously have too much time on your hands. Resin or plastic panzers. These guys are resin. They're 3D printed. And they used to look like this. Shit, where's my A13? There we go. Well, it's not on right now. They used to be this color. Just coming along. Hollow bottoms. I don't print them. Oh, no. I'm just a painter. No, let the pros paint them. Let the pros print them. That's not satisfying. All right, now we got this clasp around it. I'm going to make the judgment call that's some kind of metal. And I'm going to take a different tack than I normally am. I'm going to paint it the same metal that I would use for the tracks. And then probably lighten it up that way. I don't want it to be shiny. And if I don't like how it looks, well, then I'll just fix it. But I don't think I'm going to make it gunmetal colored. First time painting boxes on a tank, so we'll see if I like it. If not, guess what? I'll change it. I don't do chipping, but I am handling this, and some of the paint has come off very subtly, and like, there's your chipping. I don't really like the way chipping looks. It's a little too exaggerated. Even when it's done right, it just doesn't look It doesn't look right to me, especially in this scale. But, you know, you do you. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, I thought there it is. What I normally would do is I would add, for the weathering, I would add pale sand. So I'm going to take some of this pale sand and actually lighten up this color. And I'm not going to dry brush it because it's a little bit too out of control. I don't like to dry brush over equipment. Equipment, I'm usually highlighting it in a certain way so it looks like a shovel and all that. I don't want to like do all that work and then dry brush it. Like, oh yeah, all that highlighting you did, you can't see it now. Okay, now we just have to figure out what color we're going to make this little tarpy thing. This roll like a bedroll. So what I'm going to do is, I'm actually going to paint that in Afrika core color. So let me see if I can find it. It's a weird color up here. It's a color I've never used before. Not US Olive Drab. I put it over here somewhere. It might be yellow green. I think I saved the little Vallejo paint guide. I'm gonna use one of those colors. Oh, hold on one second here. What was I looking for? I bet I have this in the gallery somewhere. That's going to be hard to find. I got a lot of pictures of Spain in here I got to get through. Oh, you know what? It's going to be in downloads. pants, yeah, here. Okay, so we're going to look at Vallejo, Afrika Korps paint. I can't tell what they're called. I guess saying green brown. I think it was green brown is what it is. Yellow green. Was that the one I pulled out? Yellow green. Yep, it was yellow green. Yeah, it's kind of a ugly ass color. But it's going to look different enough from the other colors that are around it that it should pop. Ugly ass color. Working on one of my Afrika Korps guys, that's the color of his pants. That's the starting color of his pants. I should always say the starting color of pants. It's not like we're going to just paint it one color and be done with it. No, we're going to layer the hell out of this. Water's over here. Tell if it's going to be a sunny day or a gray day. Please, no gray day. Yesterday, the temperature was freaking great. I think the high I ever got to was like maybe 58 or something like that. That was awesome. Blue skies. I mean, it's terrible if you're going to want to go to the beach, but 58 degrees or even colder. I'm going to have to toot my own horn here. Had that sneeze attack. This is an ugly color. Parrot cage green. Everything I do to this is one step closer towards being done. Not that I'm in a hurry. Actually, not in a hurry at all. This might be a little too bold of a step. Maybe just a little bit more. We got to paint the little buckles. Don't have to, we choose to. Don't have to do anything. I can't see shit over there. Iron Warriors. We still have the wood to paint on those other two panzers. Now I'm going to come in here with, where's this new dry brush that we used for this? Let's get some of this. It might be that color. I got to be careful and make sure that we use the correct one. It is that same one. Okay. We'll come in here. We're going to get almost all this paint out, but we want one that is pretty precise. That detached because I was using the stupid super glue, which I am not a fan of. I'd rather be disappointed with the range. To be honest, I'm rather disappointed with range of 3D models. I thought there would be more diverse things available. Why not anyone who makes Sepoy Mutiny figures, for example? Oh, well, because it's not a very popular thing. I mean, I would imagine. I went to go visit a battle site, and I just happened to see a battle site when I was in the area in St. Simon's Island, and there was a battle that took place there in the War of Austrian Succession, and I don't think anybody makes figures for the War of Austrian Succession. I mean, you could make other things on there, but You know, the only reason I have 3D printed stuff is because I found somebody in the United States that would do these, and the model kits just gotten way too expensive. Like, way too expensive. Like, I don't mind building the models. Like, I do a decent enough job. I I enjoy the model building aspect of it, but I don't want to spend $40 on one model. Like, it's too much when I'm gonna have like six. Like, that's like too expensive. You know, it doesn't make any sense. So I just missed something that could use a little bit of highlighting on it. That's the only reason I did them. You know, it's not because, oh, they're 3D printed. I could make a million of them. I've got no interest in 3D printing this stuff myself. That's not my hobby. I don't have the patience for it. I don't have the patience for things to come out shitty, and then, you know, and have to reprint and things like that. And I don't want all that resin shit in my house, you know. So we'll let the professionals do that kind of thing. Just like some people can't be bothered with painting their own figures. Well, I'm sorry, I can't be bothered with buying things already painted. Like, anybody can do that. So, but there's lots of stuff that these particular models are incredible, and I didn't have anybody in the United States. I didn't know anybody in the United States that had access to these particular ones, and they honestly have more detail than 1/35th scale models. Now I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of black lining, because this one's been completely black lined, and it has the brown drippings, as I like to call them, already, but it was before I put the equipment on it. So, like, there isn't any on the space between the tracks and that kind of stuff to make that stuff pop. But I imagine there's probably a lot of things that are, you know, nobody makes any figure stuff. I've never seen anybody play Indian Mutiny. So I'm not surprised that they don't make, and not until recently have I seen anybody play Lace War stuff. So they don't necessarily 3D. They don't necessarily make 3D printed stuff that that needs to be made because nobody else makes it. Like, there's an infinite number of people that make models of a Tiger One, for instance, and, like, do you really need any more Tiger? I mean, everybody makes a Tiger One, so, like, why is that? So, as a matter of fact, one vehicle that was, in my opinion, really missing was one that I suggested someone to make, and that is a A13 Mark II tank. Nobody made one in 1/72nd. You'd have to buy a model kit that is really relatively inexpensive, but it costs like $18, $20 for two of them, plus shipping. And then you have to buy a conversion kit and then convert it, and the conversion kit's like $20 each. Like, it becomes cost. It doesn't make sense cost wise when you need six of them for a scenario. So, I suggested I made a comment to the guy that does the 3D printing, like, man, I wish somebody would make this. And he's like, well, I'm gonna go contact them, see if they'll make one, and they made one for him. I said, well, I'll get four of them if you have them make them for you, and I did. And they're probably next. So I wish I had the time and inclination to make some of those. I don't think I ever want to print them. I'd be more interested in actually, like, drawing them in CAD, because I have done that. It was a long time, but I'd have the patience for that. I wouldn't have the patience to print them, because the problem with printing them is everything's going right, and then you go to work, and then something goes sideways, and you're not there to correct it, and you have a print that's no good. That isn't a big deal, but when you get home from work, you're disappointed that something at home didn't go right. And I just don't want to bring that into my life. I don't want to volunteer for things going at home going sideways. I have enough sideways things that happen at work. So I would be more likely to design things for 3D printing than I would be to actually print them. That doesn't mean I'm going to do that either. That takes a lot of time. And like, that means I'm not painting. So, and I'd rather paint things that somebody else designed, that somebody else printed, than design things for somebody else to print and somebody else to paint for me. Like, I'm not interested in other people painting shit for me. That's a no-no. So, but these prints are beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. And they've got some areas that are going to need to get, once we seal them, it'll look all the better. But let me take a picture of this up close so you can see that. But the detail these things have is incredible. I said I don't mind building them as model kits. It's just they got too expensive. Model kits are like, $30. And then you got to pay shipping on top of it. And then you got to wait for it. At least with a PDF, you get it immediately. Like, I got to pay all this money and wait for it. Let's kill this, because this is giving it a fake color. And of course, it'll look better once it's sealed. And all the markings are hand painted as well. Let's see if this looks. I mean, these models are incredible. You got the bolt holes in the roof and shit like that. I mean, I'm like, where's the other one that we took? This is the other one. So it's just popularity. There's some periods that people aren't interested in, and there's periods. There's pictures that there's periods that people are really interested in, and like I'm not like they make lots of American Civil War stuff. I'd rather not play a war game if all I had was American Civil War. I'm not. I am zero interested in the American Civil War. Like, and or maybe they make them for the period. Maybe make them, but not in the scale you want to play. Like, they put a lot of stuff out recently as 28 millimeter. I don't do 28 millimeter. I never will. They take up too much space. They're too expensive. And worst of all, for me, they take too long to paint. I'd be spending 12, 14 hours on one figure. I don't have time for that. Okay. And these other ones that we put the little bags on this morning that we painted, there's a little bit of shiny stuff there from the glue, but once I matte coat this will be all like, it'll all be squared away. These two do not have the brown drippings, like little bits of rust and stuff like that. But I think at this point, before I get bogged down in that, let's look at the Panzer Commanders here. I got 4 of them primed. Okay, this guy's going to be for one of the light tanks. So what else we got? This guy's going to be for one of the other light tanks. Okay, so these 2 guys that have caps. One of them is going to go on the Panzer III-H, and the other one's going to go on the Panzer III-G. So if I take this guy here, pretty sure I'm going to have to chop some of his legs off. He's a little too. He's a bit tall. Yeah, I don't know why he's that tall. I thought I would have trimmed him. This guy should be the right height. Well, I just won't paint it to the bottom and then cut it off later. And then, now I'm not going to permanently glue these in here. Yeah, this guy's the right height. That guy's the right height. I just had, that's not that big a deal. I could cut it off, cut it later. I'm gonna use the guy that's the right height first. I'm gonna paint his happy ass first. Militias had diverse uniforms. I just don't like the period. I don't like anything in the 18. It's the same thing with westerns. I never watched westerns. Why? I'm not interested in what people wore or their hairstyles or the history or the weapons. It just doesn't interest me. You know. Same thing with the American Civil War. It's just like the wrong period for me. You know. And I don't have anybody in my family that, you know, my people haven't been over here yet. So it's not like, well, my guys fought for the Union. Like, you know, we were over in Europe, not like minding our own business, not doing that stuff. Your rabbit hole of interest lately is Latin American wars. Doesn't interest me at all. I mean, I could get talked into doing conquistadors and something like that, but after that, it just doesn't interest me. But that's okay. I mean, that's why they make all kinds of different periods. You know? Yeah, a lot of those would be interesting. It was like, man, why's the guy got that kind of a beard or these freaking sideburns that come all the way down here? Like, just like, man, you look like a dweeb. I know everybody in that time period wore that stuff, but it's like, it doesn't really appeal to me. Okay, so we got to decide what color we're going to make this the Panzerführer. And it's going to be faded things. So I'm going to get my inspiration from Dak Panzer Commander images. And I'm not necessarily going to go with something, but I'll be able to see what the colors next to each other look like. Okay, so this, but he has an undershirt on that's rolled up, so we can't use this dark tunic. I mean, it ends up being faded, but I don't want to use the dark tunic, so we know his helmet is going to be almost yellow because it fades like crazy. Oh, this is cool that they ended up having a guy with a little side cap, and his cap's actually black. Okay, it looks like it's almost like a little bit of a... All right, so I'm actually going to use that. Let me do like a gray-green. Let me do a gray-green on his shirt that's going to get rolled up. And where was that Vallejo Afrika Korps paint set? I'm going to use one of them as a base. Green, brown, yellow, green, khaki, stone gray. All right. So we just used yellow, green there. I like that. But I'm going to do green, brown. Yeah, I'm going to use yellow, green. I'll use yellow, green, which is already here. Let's get a little bit more black. And what I really like doing is painting the flesh, because that's when he starts looking human. This brush is holy. We're going to leave that one alone. We're not going to use that until we have to. You end up wearing out your really detailed brushes on things that don't need to be that detailed. And when you need to do the detail, they're not in the best condition. You know, if I did Latin American stuff, I would do ships. But the problem with the ships is a lot of them during certain periods just kind of almost look extremely similar to each other. Okay. Yeah, so there's different things that, you know, a lot of it is dependent on are you Latin American background at all? I mean, I believe there's a tie-in of that kind of stuff. That doesn't have to be, but I think it, helps. Like, if you're Portuguese, you probably want to do Portuguese stuff, unless you hate the fact that you're Portuguese. That doesn't, then you can throw that out the window. Although I think that's a pretty small set of people that really dislike what their lineage is, because you don't have any control over that. Like, you don't get to pick who your mama is. I think there's got to be some kind of tie-in. I don't think there's like a whole host of people from Kentucky that are dying to do South American wars. I could be wrong, but like one thing that never interested me was anything that involves King Arthur. Just like made up, and it's just like Dark Ages Britain. It's like it doesn't interest me. Like there's a lot of similarities. There's not my people. It's I think overdone, but a lot of the war game companies are from Britain, and that's like important for them. I get it, but it's just not anything I'm particularly interested in. I just have ADHD. Everyone is doing Polish stuff in Poland. Besides, I'm only collecting and research, not wargaming, because I don't have any friends who do models. Um, Everybody likes the Hussars. Everybody likes the Hussars. That's some of the pain. I just never got around to it. Um, if I could do everything at once, I would absolutely do, and I've got a lot of figures for it. But World War Two is my jam. Like I do polls, like I do World War Two polls, but I'm doing 1939 polls. I'm not doing polls in Falais Gap where they wear the same thing the British do. Like, what's the point in doing the polls then? Doing the polls like they look different. I would do Polish resistance fighters. I would do that too. That would be awesome. Actually, Polish. What is the Polish Civil War? The war right after World War One. That would be interesting. There's a lot of different colorful stuff there. But I knew there's one company that used to come over to our conventions here in Florida and put on games, and it's the guys that made those rules called Fire and Sword, and they were in 15 millimeter. And I never played the game, but I didn't play the game not because it was Polish. I played it because it's a little limited on the period. Like if you could, you probably could, but I have to play a lot. Like my period would be the Spanish in the 1500s, the late 1500s. I'd be all over that shit, you know. And you could probably adapt those rules to play that kind of stuff, but that's like a lot of figure painting, you know. But I'm one of those ones that I would do the Poles and I would do the Russians and I would do the Swedes and all the different. I don't want to just like do one thing, but I do want it to be a big enough area that I'm interested in doing all that other stuff as well. But yeah, I'm not really sure what happened to that guy, whether there was a dispute or something, but he stopped coming over. He came over in the old like 2010, 2012, 13, 14. And I don't know if he came all the way from Poland or he lived in the States but he put on games and the games looked pretty good and he had a lot of players. But he's trying to promote his product, and his figures look good too. Hussars or Hussars English, they are translated as the same winged or Hussars World War II, like cavalry. Yeah, I meant the winged ones. I couldn't remember what they were called. See, I get out of a period and I forget the nomenclature of things. And I mentioned something about ancient history the other day and I couldn't remember. What's the name of that guy that's the son of the other one? And it was Demetrius is what I was looking for, but I hadn't talked about ancient stuff in 2 years, so you get brain atrophy. Not a lot of people make South American war stuff, and like maybe you want to do it in 15s, and nobody makes it in that scale, or there isn't the selection that there is in 28s, or yeah, I've got several Wing Hussars figures to paint. I don't know when I would get to them, if ever. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. That's going to keep me from playing World War II. And the only reason I want to play World War II is I want to play in the scale that I want to play in. Like, I'm not interested in playing Rapid Fire or Flames of War, Bolt Action. I'd rather not play a World War II game than play Bolt Action. This is way too generic for me. But when you're not putting games at a convention, when you don't go to conventions to play the games that you want, you can do whatever the hell you want at home, and it can take however long you want it to. And I spent too many years having to play something that wasn't as good as it could have been because of the sake of other people. For the sake of, trying to have some global audience that would play this game. And then just people wouldn't show up. You put all those restrictions on yourself and people still aren't coming to game. Like, okay, well, fuck them then. I'm going to do what I want. I don't want to play a game that spends this much time painting the figures, which I don't regret. I don't regret spending a long time painting the figures. You got to remember, I have an investment. I have an investment of I'm putting a lot of effort in what these things look like, and then play a game where you're flipping coins, like to see who gets knocked out. Like, for that, I won't paint any figures. If your game is so damn basic, then it's not worthy of spending the amount of time that I'm going to spend on the figures. Like, well, we should just paint them quicker. I said, okay, well, I should buy figures that look shittier, that are cheaper, like use Army Men. Because, why buy figures that are, expensive, right? Especially like you're doing something like Games Workshop. Now, I'm not a Games Workshop person, but their miniatures are expensive. Like, you should be playing a game that's a lot more detailed than Games Workshop games with Games Workshop figures, because their figures, honestly, are pretty darn nice. Now, the subject matter that I'm not interested in, but to paint those figures to the effort that they, you see them online, people are spending tens of hours painting them. I'm not going to say 100. I don't think anybody's spending 100 hours in a figure, but they might put 40 hours in a figure, And that just doesn't interest me to do this kind of detail and the boxes and all that stuff. And like, okay, these all the medium tanks are the same. Like, well, you get somebody else to play that, because that doesn't motivate me to build different tanks. You know, that's not for me. But some people want to just paint. Some people want to just do the research. Some people just want to just play. And I say, if all you want to do is play, there's a lot less inconvenient things to do than to do this. Like, if I was just into playing, I'll go play a video game, or I'll go play a board game with people. Not go through all this effort, all this research, and then, oh yeah, by the way, this is just all generic. Oh, all tanks are the same. Oh, all rifles are the same. Like, okay, well, get somebody else to build stuff for that, because it won't be me. Oop. We darn missed a spot. I don't want to play a game where I'm painting all these knights and I'm putting all this detail into the heraldry, which I freaking love to do. I don't think there's anything I like to do more than that. That's probably my favorite thing to do of everything, is to figure out people's heraldry and paint it. And then every guy is the same. Or, oh, everybody's infantry is the same. Like, I shouldn't be in that. I shouldn't be involved in that. I remember when I was first doing medievals, man, I don't know if I'm going to do French or Germans or English or Spanish. I don't know what army I'm going to do. Well, just build some generic medieval knights and you can use them for everybody. I'm like, you're speaking the wrong language for me. That is the wrong language. Like, nope. You're collecting things all over the place, mishmash. I've done first plane ever, not counting the planes I met when I was 10. Yeah, I don't count those. And it is RW3 civilian aircraft. RW5. I'm having trouble seeing. RW5 civilian aircraft. Rear wheel drive. Okay. Let's see if I can look that up. Oh, that's a cool plane. Yeah, it's part of the hobby, and that's why. Yeah. Little Cessna looking thing. A Polish Cessna. I enjoy going to the weekly model meeting. And none of those guys are war gamers. Now, I am a scalist, which means I wouldn't mind building that little plane. It looks pretty cool. But I wouldn't build it at anything other than 1/72nd scale. I want all my aircraft once, because then you can compare them. I don't want to do 1/48th, 1/32nd, like, no, 1/72nd scale. So, yeah, cute little plane. I always wanted to get a plane that I never got a chance to get. I wanted to build a plane that my dad used to have, or the company that he had in Cuba used to have, and it's hard to find a model of it. But it was a civilian plane called a Beechcraft Staggered Wing. And people make it, but like I wouldn't do it in anything other than 1/72nd scale, because then you have a chance of, like, comparing it to figures, and so forth. They don't take up too much space in your, cabinet. You can compare them to everything else that you have, that kind of thing. All right, we're going to add a little bit. Where did the white go? Boy, my stomach is just having a party. Black coffee and what I had for breakfast are not getting along well. So if you hear any grumbling, that's what it is. I have pretty good self-restraint. I went to this hobby show a couple of weeks ago, and I keep bringing it up almost like I have regrets, but it was the right call to make. They had a lot of things that were priced to move, like people that had collected way too many things, and we're trying to get rid of them, right? And planes were really popular. By far, most of it was planes. 1/35th scale armor is probably a second, but I used to do 1/35th scale armor. I won't do that again. Unless I was going to game in 1/35th scale. That's a bit extreme, but this one guy was selling these kits, and they were pieces of shit kits. They weren't the latest and the greatest, right? They were old Hasegawa kits, old Fujimi kits, probably from the early 80s. And he was selling 5 planes for $10. And had they had the right planes, I would have bought 5 of them. But I realized they would just be, if you have stuff and you don't do anything with it, it kind of eats at not my soul, but it eats at my motivation to do things. If I have too much stuff unused, it throws me off. So I didn't get any. And they didn't have the right planes. And by the right planes, I would have wanted, planes that would have been at an airfield in North Africa. Not because I want that, but because I can use them as, terrain pieces. So, and they didn't have the right ones. I mean, I can't do anything with a Focke-Wulf. It doesn't do me any good, Problem accessibility when you want to have some rare topics. For example, warlord Chinese, Tibetans, and Mongolians early 20th centuries. Only 28 medals on the market. Yeah, those figures look great, but if you don't want to do that scale, like me, yeah, those figures look awesome. Who's it that makes it? Is it Cobblestone? I want to say it's Cobblestone or Artisan or War Games Foundry or all those 3. And who's the other ones? And Gripping Beast. Those 4 companies make some amazing looking stuff. Amazing looking stuff. But it's all 28 millimeters, so I'm not going to paint it. If somebody held a gun to my head and said you have to paint 28 millimeter stuff, and I couldn't wrestle the gun from his hand, right? When I went to Spain, there was this hobby store, and I'd seen him on the net before I went to this store. But they have these 3D printed figures by a company called Reconquista Miniatures, and they were fantabulously gorgeous. And they literally had the figure for Sancho II or whatever. And I mean, they were just incredible. I don't game in that scale. And the people that game in that scale, they play a game that if I'm going to do 28 millimeter, it's going to have even more detail than this. And they don't. They're like generic ass games, So they make some amazing looking stuff. When I started doing this in the early 90s, 28 millimeter was Warhammer only. That's all they had. They had some fantasy stuff. There wasn't any historical stuff that was 28 millimeter. There was historical stuff that was 25 millimeter, but that was really old school, and those were hard to come by, and they didn't look great anyways. But the 28 millimeters that they make now look really, physically, they're nice looking figures. They would just take too long, You know, if I was doing like a vignette or something, like, okay, maybe, you know, but I can't do everything, so I'm going to choose what I do, you know. All right, so here is time for the fleshy bits. Sunny skin tone. You better believe it's going to be sunny in Afrika. Red leather. We're going to use our black and white. Yeah, that war that stuff looks amazing. Okay, I'm not into South American war stuff like that. But if you've seen the war games, and they're old figures now, but in the early 2000s they were new. The I want to say it's War Games Foundry makes Mexican, not Mexican Revolution. Well, they might make Mexican Revolution, but I was talking about like the um, is it Mexican Revolution or is it the the one that's right after the Civil War, right after the American Civil War? The what do they call it? The Maximilian, the Maximilian figures that they make. Those are some amazing. Those were some amazing freaking figures that I was like, this is really freaking cool. They had guys with sombreros and just really figures would make you want to paint them. You know, this now they're old figures. Now they're 20 something years old, which, you know, I don't necessarily have a problem with, but there's some people that are always chasing the latest and the greatest. Oh, this is the new red leather. No, 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 no. We're going to use the old red leather. Let's run that thing into the ground. ¿Dónde está? French expedition in Mexico. Those figures were gorgeous. They come up on the miniatures page. I'm like, these guys look really cool. These guys look really, really cool. And you could probably play that with what is it called? Blood and Steel. And Blood and Steel's a good game. It just doesn't motivate me to read about the history. You know, it's a little too generic. So, yeah, those figures when they came out, they were beautiful. But that's when 28 millimeter figures that started looking worth a damn were coming out in that period. Because before it's like, Warhammer, too bulky, too. I don't mind the figures being a little heroic looking, but you can take things too far. In my opinion. And then I don't like what they look like, you know. Yeah, but those French expedition in Mexico figures were beautiful looking. And I think that they make some other stuff in South America, but again, it's 28 millimeters. So if you don't do 28s, which, you know, I think 28s are fine for skirmish. I don't know if I'd want to paint like a whole, you know, something that you mount multiple figures on a stand in 28 millimeter. I don't think 28 millimeter, I don't find it very conducive to that. It's going to be my first sand Nazi. But the Germans have fought, they weren't all Nazis, but I'm painting this guy and he's a Nazi. I don't have a problem painting these guys. They're just up to no good. They look cool, but they're just up to no good. Okay. Now we'll kill that. Now let's start getting into the... Where's the super brush? We moved it over here. Perry Miniature's War of Triple Alliance is tempting. Basically, Latin Americans in 19th century had everlasting French influence. War of the Pacific in 1879. I played that with ships. It's like a cross between ACW and Franco-Prussia War. Yep, I played the ship one. I really enjoyed it. We also kicked ass. That never hurts. Played the Peruvians. I've said this before. You probably never heard me say it. I haven't said it that many times, but I think a really cool game would be to play a Victorian era game that it's pretty much everybody against everybody. And as a matter of fact, I was playing a game of Sword in the Flame, and I suggested that to the guy that was running it. I was like, Afghanistan is a really good environment for that. Is you can have Russian involvement. They did have a Russian involvement. British. You could have people sticking their noses in there. Different tribesmen all fighting against, using one guy against the other. That kind of thing. And you could have interesting stuff like missionaries trying to get through, and using one, that kind of stuff is be really interesting. And then you could extrapolate that into like a World War One type of thing, all over the world. But they don't make that many. Like, let's say you wanted to do Germans, right? They make guys for Franco-Prussian War. They make guys for World War One, and other than a few figures for Boxer Rebellion, that's all the German figures you have. So you'd have to convert a bunch of stuff. But I think that would be kind of interesting. And you could have the French and the Germans sometimes be on the same side against the British, and sometimes, you know. But I guess it wouldn't be like some grand scale type of game. And you could do stuff like in Latin America, and then all of a sudden, like the small group of whoever show up, you know, the British or the French or whatever. But again, it's a situation like you were talking about that nobody makes figures for them. And I think it would, let's say you did your own 3D printing design, I think it'd be a lot easier to 3D print a vehicle than figures. That's, that seems a lot more difficult. That seems a lot more difficult. this is going to turn out well. I just feel like I'm not in a painting groove for figures. I don't know why. It just, you have too much shit on here that's not figure colors. Probably what it is. Is I do like painting figures a lot. More than painting vehicles, really. I think I'm better at painting figures than vehicles. I got a lot more experience painting figures, that's for damn sure. Even though I've got 200 vehicles painted, I still got more experience painting figures. Let's do that. This is, and I'm getting towards the end of my painting session, so. He's gonna look good. He's gonna look good. He's gonna look good. And I'm also not used to using this little. I'm used to wasting more paint than this. I'm used to like, okay, let's put white down, and then you a big old turd of white. All right, let's get this. Water on this. I need fresh water, probably make a difference. What do you use for stripping figures of the paint? I don't. I haven't had to do that. I have stripped Matchbox cars or Hot Wheels cars of the paint, and I use this material called Citrus Strip, which actually smells pretty good considering how nasty it is. And that would work also. I don't. Plastic figures, you're done. You know, you're done. But metal ones, the Citrus Strip works pretty well. And it's about as non-toxic as you could get for that sort of a thing. And it works pretty well. It works pretty well. Just use a toothbrush, and it's available in hardware stores here in the United States, or have it at Walmart or something like that. And it's a gel. That's what I like about it, is you can just use a small container and just paint it on the figure. You don't have to like dip them completely in something. But it won't work on plastic. It'll eat it. It may not work on resin either. But I paint really thin. So I could repaint this guy and not have to do anything dramatic. All right, and for his hat, let's go back to the bigger brush here. I'm going to use, you know what? His hat was originally this color. So let's start with that. His hat was originally this color, and then it just faded from being in the sun. Many times not content with the outcome, trying to redo things. Fortunately, it doesn't happen to me very often. That'd be really frustrating. It hasn't happened in a long time. I can usually fix it. Or I'm fixing it as I'm going along, you know? So. But the citrus strip will take all the figures, all the paint off of the stuff. You still got to use like a toothbrush or something like that, but a soft toothbrush. I mean, this is the color that this used to be until it faded. So let's add a little bit of white and see what kind of colors we start getting. And see if that's what we want to go. Yes, that's what we want to do. Yep. That's what we want to do. We don't need to add this other like buff color. This kind of interesting hat that's kind of buckled a little bit. It's soft. It's not like the front of it is hard. And take that same one, add a little bit more white. Sometimes these Afrika Korps caps were damn near off-white by the time they were done. Yeah, this is looking the business right here. See if we can get a good close shot of this guy. And when you seal them, they look even better. And the lighting in here is just weird. We're getting there. He's got some cables that come off of his headphones. Let's see, can we grab him by the bottom by not screwing him up? Yeah. We're not still done. We're not done tinkering with him. But now we can get in here and I really do like doing the figures. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm not doing figures. I'm like, dude, I've done so many figures. And actually, I could paint him right there because what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to highlight these. The folds on his shirt. Actually, I said I wasn't going to glue him in. I may actually glue him in there. It's such a small amount of paint that you need to use. Now, one thing I will tell you is, I actually prefer the British tanks to the German tanks. But the Afrika Korps stuff that they wore, they look pretty cool. You know, and I think that's why the Germans are popular. You know, because they were pretty cool dressers. They were assholes, but, you know, their uniforms are pretty awesome looking. That's, I think, why they were a popular subject. Yeah, I still need to do some tinkering to him, but man, we're definitely in the right place. See if we can avoid that crooked coconut. We don't want to show that on the video and have on the screen and have the freaking bots after me. That reflects too much light. That's the problem. Oh no, we gotta add more depth to his hand. We're not done yet. We gotta add more depth to his hand. To his fingers. ¿Dónde está el agua? Aquí. And I like the figures because it makes the thing, it gives a sense of scale. To the miniature. And you know, people that aren't really familiar with the stuff, like my wife, they like can realize, oh, how big this thing is by seeing a person in it. Oh, fuck yeah. That's why I do this hobby. This is some empowering shit right here. Like, it'll set the pace for the rest of the day being awesome. part that you're going to see. It's not in the shadows of his cap. They had a guy, I saw a video recently where this guy from the Australian Army Museum, there's a video on YouTube, and he's driving a Panzer IV and a T-34. And he's like, okay, I'm going to drive both of them. And he was like, there was an instructor that was showing him what to do. And he got in one tank and fought with it, drove it around like this course, and got in the other one. And by the time he was done, he was covered in grease and shit and all kinds of stuff. It's like, you don't want these guys, like, you know, their hands clean, because, you know, all kinds of filth and shit in there. Let's clear this stuff of rubbish. It's killing all the... It's reflecting too much. I can't take pictures with this shit, and I'm okay with that. Yeah, it looks better when you add the auto. As the auto like kills, like it works against this. We'll show you a little bit of the crooked spider, but you can't see the whole swastika. It's off there off the side of the screen. But the figure actually looks better than it does in this photo. It almost looks like it's done some kind of like an oil paint thing. But the subtlety of the colors on the turret is what I really like. Because of all the different layers that I've added, it does not... I don't want it to look uniform. And let's see if I can take a picture in 1.0. No magnification. Why does the face look so much shittier on the photo? Maybe if I focus on it. Whoa, not so much. Well, that helped. No, I'm just a terrible picture taker. That's more like it. I mean, you can get, wow, you can really zoom in. You could tell the difference here on the cap, the different layers of the... And I'm painting in +6. I'll take my contacts out. I got built-in +6. Anyhow, I think that's what we're going to stop for this morning. That went really freaking well. I really like the way this guy is turning out. And the sandbags on these other ones just... Really happy with that. And these two still need a little bit of drippings on them. It's not severe, but just adds a little bit. It adds some other coloration in there. Do I lacquer the models after painting? Yes, clear. Yeah, with clear flat. Vallejo I've switched to using all acrylic. I don't want the varnish to eat at anything that I may look a certain way. That's really demoralizing. Really demoralizing. Yeah, but I mean the details on this. I'm just a simple painter. The guy who created this thing is some incredible detail on this thing. He's got bolt holes in the top of the roof and all kinds of stuff. Just like I didn't do any of that stuff. So excellent, excellent stuff. All right, folks. Thanks for stopping by. We'll definitely see you tomorrow morning, and catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for stopping by. Oh my God, I don't know how to say that. All right, let's try this. Per zeg Agree. I don't know how you do the W. I don't know how you do the W in Polish. Is it like a V? Prez Preze Preze Grieve. Preze Grieve. Preze Grieve. Okay, thanks for